Hello, singers! Welcome back to episode 2 of Voice Tutorials with Tim. Our subject for today is breathing. It is one that I think about a lot as both an athlete and as a singer. It also happens to be the aspect of singing that I have struggled with perhaps more than any other. It is also a subject that I always strive to approach with the highest degree of respect, because I have become aware over the years that everyone's body is a little bit different. And I have picked up advice and images and ideas from books or voice coaches through the years that haven't worked for me and some that have. That doesn't mean that the sources that didn't work for me were not credible or that those weren't good teachers or good coaches. It was just an issue of me finding what worked for me. Keep that in mind as you're watching this video. The things that work for me may not necessarily work for you. So that doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong, nor does it mean that I'm doing it wrong, but it is your permission, it's your license to experiment with your voice, with your breathing mechanism, and honor the way that your body works, and enjoy the sensation of your free, efficient, and highly functioning breathing mechanism. What I try to do, rather than talk about images or ideas of placing the breath, I like to look at it a little bit more from an anatomical perspective. So we have an idea of the parts that are involved in it and how they fit and work together. And then if we can get them moving in that way, the experience of it, how that feels to you, is up to you. This is an idea that I borrow from the work of Robin de Haas, who is a voice coach out of Switzerland, and it's from his book, The Path of the Voice, originally written in French. I have an English translation because unfortunately, I neither speak nor read French. If someone out there wants to teach me, hit me up. But he talks about the breathing mechanism as a kind of double dome, an opposing glide of a double dome, where the lower dome is the diaphragm. When you inhale, the diaphragm pulls down, which creates a vacuum in the lungs and then allows air to flow in. The opposing glide that happens as the diaphragm pulls down is that of the rib cage, expanding slightly and rising slightly to accommodate the now inflating lungs. When you exhale, that reverses. The rib cage relaxes and moves downwards slightly over the rising dome of the diaphragm. So those two movements happen in parallel. The result for me then is that I experience the breath the whole way around the thoracic cavity. The whole thing is engaged in breathing, and I don't experience the breath just in my back or just in my chest, although I will say that for me, breathing low has hardly ever been a helpful image. I have all kinds of digestive organs down there underneath my diaphragm, and I can try to squish them into places they don't want to be, but it only results in discomfort and doesn't give me any more usable breath control while singing. So given that the entire thorax is at play, the rib cage is all mobile, one of the things then that has been helpful for me is integrating the idea of breathing in the back. I don't place the breath in the back, but it is one of the areas where I experience this sensation. And one of the ways we can simulate that or exaggerate that a little bit is to give yourself a hug, kind of. Press against your rib cage. That's kind of going to take that upper dome and pivot it back slightly to exaggerate the amount of expansion you feel in your back. So you'll push it back and then find a way to reach your fingers around either to your sides like this, or if you can, right onto your back. It'll depend on your ratios and your size. But get your hands, arms somewhere back there, pushing back on the rib cage, and then take a deep breath, and you may feel that your hands slide apart as you take a deep breath. One more time. So if we work with that a little bit, we may find that the back begins to become more mobile. Now we have a little bit more of our breathing mechanism available for work. That doesn't mean that every breath we take whenever we sing is going to be a full, big, deep breath. On the contrary, it allows optimal movement, so even if it's a small movement, it is giving us more control and more freedom, even if it's a small breath, which is often all we need. One thing that can happen often, especially for me, is when I anticipate a high note in a song, I kind of lock the breathing mechanism and essentially stop breathing because I'm nervous or worried about how it's going to sound, or is my voice going to crack, or what's going to happen up there. Let's look at the song You Raise Me Up here. Let's say we come into the chorus and we're getting a little bit worried about the top note here. In this case, it's an F. And You're like, ooh, I don't know if I can hit that F. And if I'm not paying attention, I may lock the breathing mechanism and try to do something like, you raise me up. And there's not a lot of airflow happening. The system kind of shuts down. I start getting a little bit nervous, a little bit more scared because of the physiological response of shallow, high breathing. Get a little bit nervous. And one simple way to overcome this, at least in the practice room, don't do this on stage, but many of us, especially if we're parents or we spend a lot of time around infants or newborns, we like to sway on stage, and I've been caught by that with a few directors over the years. So we are going to try to rock the rib cage though here, just in practice. Place your hands on either side of your ribs and move them back and forth slightly. Don't rock your hips when you do this. What we're trying to achieve is a little bit of a sideways wave in the spine. We're not rocking the hips, we're not swaying, just a little bit of back and forth movement. A lot of movement is probably pretty uncomfortable. Starting to get nauseous, don't do that. But that'll keep the whole breathing mechanism from jamming on that top note. So let's try it again and see if it works. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. It's not perfect, but at least the air stayed moving, and maybe it's partially because I just distracted my mind from worrying about the high note, or maybe it's partially because I just kept those muscles moving and reminded the air to keep flowing. The body basically took care of it and let that high note happen. I hope these ideas and exercises work for you, and if you're looking for any more freedom or ease in breathing, I hope this is helpful for you. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel on YouTube so you never miss a new episode. If you would like to work with me one-on-one, send me a direct message on Facebook or on Instagram, or comment on the video on Facebook, on YouTube, or on Instagram. I would love to hear from you. I would love to work with you. If you know someone else that you think would like to see this video and could gain something from it, please send it their way. And whatever else you decide to do with your breathing mechanism, I think we can all agree that you shouldn't stop breathing. So until next time, happy singing.